The Kendrick Brothers join us this
Oh,
morning.
good morning. The creators of
Good morning.
movies
Good morning to
like
you.
Fireproof, Courageous, War Room. We know your movies have touched the nations, bringing life to the power of the gospel at work within us. And now you guys have got a brand new movie, The Forge, joining the throes, which is about a boy just out of high school who's challenged by his single mum and businessman and begins discovering God's purpose for his life. I know you've got a lot to say about this, so thank you for joining us, brothers Alex and Stephen Kendrick. Kia ora.
Yeah.
Hello. Good to be with
Yes.
Hey, I got a question for you as an opener because, these films now, they're their own subgenre, right? When we say there's a Kendrick Brothers movie coming, people get excited about it. They know it's going to be a good one. I want to know, though, when you guys were younger, how well did you get on? Like, would you have been able to do this stuff when you were early on? Were you always people who could spend all this time together, great mates? You thought, yep, we'll live together, work together. Tell me a story.
Yeah, I think when we were young that we got on each other's nerves just like a lot of siblings do. And actually, it wasn't until we were teenagers that another family ministered to us and we realized we should be on each other's team more than anything else. And so we made an agreement between Shannon, the oldest, and then I'm Alex in the middle, and then Stephen, the youngest. We made an agreement to back up each other, to protect each other, and to work together. And we have kept that ever since we were teenagers.
That is so cool. Well, there's hope for all of us, especially if you're still squabbling with your siblings. Now, let's talk about The Forge, because I have seen the trailer. I am yet to see the preview screening, but I cannot wait. I'm going to jump into the cinema the minute it comes out in New Zealand on the 29th of August. But what inspired this story, The Forge? Because we know other movies in times past have been inspired by real life stories and events and people that you know. Was there anyone in real life that you base the characters on, or any journeys of people around you that kind of inspired you to kind of weave that into the story?
Yes, Jesus. He was a real life person who inspired this story. If people like Courageous or War Room, they're gonna love The Forge. Some of the same characters from War Room are in this movie. We bring Miss Clara back, and we grew up with parents who were discipling us growing up. Discipleship should begin in the home, but it should expand to the church. And believers need to be pouring into the next generation. And we had youth pastors investing in us. Then we became youth pastors and began to disciple young people, college students. And then if you fast forward to us praying about the next storyline, the Lord focused us back in on the Great Commission. We have generations around the world. They're digitally connected, but they're relationally disconnected. And true discipleship is leading people not only to Christ, but leading them to maturity. And you do it within the context of a loving relationship. And you're not just telling them from a distance what to do, you're showing them with your life. And that is what Jesus did. He didn't just say, follow my teachings. He said, follow me. And so Alex began to see these storyline ideas as he was praying. He started working on the script. And God kept confirming, I'm with you. I want to focus in on discipleship. And so we're excited because you see discipleship in vivid, relevant display in the Forge movie. This movie has something for everybody.
You've started to answer a bit of my question too. I was going to ask about your creative process behind this as well, because of course it's more than just a film. There's a message that you want to be able to share with this too. And so, it seems to me like a lot of these ideas, they emerge from prayer, but I know there's always there's a moral to every story, but there's something in particular you want to communicate. Does that develop as you go along? Are you kind of, maybe God's giving you breadcrumbs as you're moving along? You think this is the main message I want to get across? How does the creative element of that come together with, I guess, the spiritual truth you wanted to communicate?
We've learned there's a difference between a good idea and a God idea. So the first thing we do is say, Lord, please give us the ideas that we should incorporate into the movie. And I would say this, when somebody's leaving the theater, this is what we want them thinking. First, to what level am I devoted to the Lord? Do I need to move anything out of the way that I have currently got as a higher priority so that the Lord can take the priority in my life and my heart and my decision making? And finally, who am I pouring into? When Paul said, follow me as I follow Christ, each of us needs to be pursuing the next generation. Because isn't it interesting? The culture is already going after the next generation, especially college age students. They're going after their beliefs and their values and their hearts, their minds. We've got to pursue them with the truth. So as someone's poured into us, we need to be pouring into the next generation. And that's an aspect of discipleship that we have to get more serious about in the church.
And that's a great thing to think about as believers. But what do you hope for people who watch the movie who haven't necessarily heard the gospel message before? What do you hope that people going to the movie in that circumstance take away from it too?
Well, they're going to hear the gospel beautifully laid out in The Forge. This movie not only presents heartfelt stories. You've got a kid that people are going to be able to relate to. He's 19 years old. His father has abandoned him. There's a father wound there. He has no job, no direction for his life. But he has a praying mama who is, I guess you would say a praying mom, who is asking
Yes,
the
well
Lord
played.
to intervene in his life. And you see an older, wiser, successful businessman reach out to him. And he not only hires him and shows him a lot of grace and patience, teaching him how to set his alarm and show up and go to work and do a good job, but he begins to meet with him personally and teach him the why, purpose behind his own life. And that through brokenness and through his own mistakes, God brought him to salvation and to surrender. And so Isaiah comes to a place about halfway through the movie where he hears the gospel, he embraces Jesus. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is when he tells his mom that he gave his life to Christ. And then to see him growing because he connects in a forge, which is a group of men in the movie. It's iron sharpens iron. These men are helping one another and they're discipling the next generation in the movie.
That's cool. I thought it
And
might have been
Isaiah
like a
begins
welding
to-
group together.
Yeah, a spiritual welding group, so but you see them growing together, sharpening one another, and by the end of the movie, the difference you see in Isaiah, people don't even recognize him because of what God's done in his heart.
And I love this idea of the practical grace that's being shown to him as well, because I think, from a spiritual perspective, we can think about the goodness that God has shown us. But I always like to think about anywhere that I've got is because somebody has given me a good thing that I don't deserve, an opportunity that maybe others might look at me and say, hey, he's not ready, he's not qualified, but somebody believed and gave me a chance. And I think, although this is a story primarily about Isaiah, I think it's a story about all of us to say, hey, look, who is somebody in my world that maybe I can extend that grace to? They might not be, air quotes, ready or qualified, but this is what can happen in somebody's life.
That's exactly right. And, it's interesting when Jesus called the disciples, which of them was ready?
True.
I mean, he said, leave your fishing boats and follow me, or Matthew, leave your tax collecting booth and follow me. And they were like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And so it's interesting that when Joshua, the older, wiser businessman that loves the Lord and is trying to reach out to Isaiah, the first time Joshua crosses Isaiah's path, Isaiah's the 19-year-old, Isaiah has an attitude. He doesn't want to be bothered by this guy. And he's just looking for a job. And when he thinks the door's closed, he just goes to walk off. And Joshua graciously stops him and says, may I take you to lunch and talk? And Isaiah's like, well, if you're going to buy me a free meal, I'll sit there and listen. and he shares some questions with him that really make Isaiah think. They're questions all of us should ask ourselves. And those are the questions that bring him back to see him again, and then this mentorship starts. And so we can't wait for people to see this, and hopefully they will build an appetite for reaching out to someone else themselves.
Oh, I can't wait to see it too. I'm intrigued as to what those questions might be. Look, you mentioned before Miss Clara, who was in War Room in your 2015 film. Karen Abercrombie is the actress, and I'm excited that she's made a reappearance in this film, as well as Priscilla Shira. So I can't help but ask, was it hard, convincing like some of these actors, particularly Priscilla, to park her preaching schedule for filming for this film?
Well, Priscilla loves to make good movies, and she has so much fun working on them because it's outside of her regular box. For her, she said one of her favorite summers of all time was when we shot War Room in 2014, because it's outside of her routine teaching and writing schedule. And the camaraderie, the prayer support that we have, the love that we experience on our sets, because our movie sets, there's a lot of discipleship going on behind the camera, which is exciting to see what the Lord is doing in other people's lives. Priscilla in this movie actually plays two roles.
Ooh.
She plays Cynthia and she plays Elizabeth from War Room. They're twin sisters. If you remember in War Room, Elizabeth talks on the phone with her sister Cynthia like 3 or 4 times, but you never see Cynthia.
I
Well, in
love
this movie,
this.
she plays both. They're twin sisters, and they actually interact and hug and hang out and talk in the movie.
Oh, that's so good. I mean, again, it's just another one of the hallmarks about your films in general that I think people really enjoy, on top of course, the messaging and even how far the production values and everything have come throughout the years too. But I got to ask, as a final question from me, maybe this says more about me than you, but if I had the legacy of cinema that you guys have got now, I would have a room in my house where there was a poster from every film as I walked down. It'd be a rogues gallery on either side. But look, what does success look like for you guys now with these films? And, it's just one of those things where, hey, we're just going to keep making them so long as people keep coming along? Or what gives you that sense of we have done well here?
Well, the Lord's really worked on our hearts. If we sought awards and we got an award, how many people would come to Christ or go deeper in their faith just because we got an award? That cannot be the drive. The drive must be, Lord, that your hand is on these projects, that your fingerprints are all over the messages, that when people are touched, they desire to go deeper in faith. So success for us is that the movies impact and resonate with the audiences, and we see them living out these principles and applying them. If nothing else, that they're motivating and they cause the conversations we need to have, the thoughts we need to have, and hopefully the plans that we, and in the case of this movie, that we purpose in our hearts. I need to start investing in someone else. As Paul said, follow me as I follow Christ. Who can I be discipling or helping, mentoring, or helping to grow spiritually in my world? And all of us have somebody that we could do that with. No one's adequately ready, but we have to start taking the steps in that direction.
Well, that is so cool. I know I've been challenged every time I see an empty closet. I'm like, ooh, could that be a prayer closet? And that's the influence of your movie War Room still having its effect on me today. Well, thank you so much, Alex and Stephen, for joining us on the show today. And of course, it's opening August the 29th. So if people would like to see it, you can go to flix.co.nz for cinemas and times. But thank you so much, Alex and Stephen.
God bless you.
Thank you. Enjoyed it. Thank you for your support.
Ah, amazing. I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did.
Yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe and turn your notifications on so you don't miss the next video.
We'll see you in the next one.